Hello there folks, how are you doing? It's lovely to see you again as usual, and a very, very warm welcome back to What's for Tea. And for tea, last night I made this roast chicken dinner. Now this is typically how I would make a roast chicken dinner. Sometimes I'll add cauliflower cheese, potato croquettes, or maybe a different vegetable, but this is just the way that I done it last night. So this is just a wee step-by-step recipe, and I don't think I've ever done this before. It's like 5 wee mini recipes in the one video. The individual elements are so easy to make. It's just all about the timing in this one. If you get the timing right, then this is going to be a doddle. Start with the thing that takes the longest, which is the chicken, and the last thing we're going to do is the broccoli, which only takes about 10 minutes to steam. Your chicken will go in the middle of the oven, the roast potatoes at the top of the oven, and then your stuffing in the bottom of the oven, and it all cooks at the same temperature, which is super handy as well. Everything that I'm using here will be in the description box underneath this video, just in case you want to go and have a look. So the first thing we're going to do is the chicken. So I'm going to be using a chicken crown. This one is from Lidl and it already came with the oil, the pepper and the salt on it, but you can just rub that on yourself. It's really easy. And I'm also going to pop some butter just under the chicken skin. This is going to keep it lovely and moist and give it a lovely rich buttery flavour. But you can skip this, if you don't want to. But if you're going to handle the chicken, make sure you wash your hands thoroughly afterwards. So that's the chicken prepared and ready to go. So grab yourself an oven tin, just like this one, nice and deep, because you want to catch all of your juices and things. So a carrot, a couple of ribs of celery, and an onion. So you just want to chop these up. This is going to be a nice wee bed for your chicken to rest on while it cooks, and it's going to produce the most wonderful gravy at the end. So give those a wee mix together. Just make sure they're nice and evenly spaced out, and then just pop your chicken on top, and we're going to cover this with foil. But try and make sure that your foil doesn't actually touch the top of the chicken, because you don't want to take the foil off and it rips your chicken skin off. So just keep it nice and loose on the top there, and now we're ready to go. So just cook this according to your pack instructions or according to the weight of your chicken. Mine was around about 500 grams and took just under an hour and a half. And don't forget to come back and baste your chicken a couple of times during the cooking process. So now we're going to move on to the stuffing. Now I would usually use box, ready-made stuffing, but I'm going to do one from scratch just to show you how easy it is. So start off with some dry or stale bread. I just left this baguette out overnight and it was lovely and dry in the morning. Pop it into a food processor and you'll get nice lovely crumbs. Now if you don't have a food processor, you can obviously rip it apart by hand or use a grater or a blender, whatever you've got, just as long as you get nice fine breadcrumbs like this. But you can obviously buy breadcrumbs as well if you prefer. So this is a sage and onion stuffing. So we've got some fresh sage and onion, some fresh parsley, some butter for frying, and obviously your breadcrumbs as well. And I'm going to be using some chicken stock. You can use water if you prefer. I prefer chicken stock because obviously it's got more flavour. So dice your onion, chop up your sage leaves, chop up your parsley, and then go over to your cooker. Melt down your butter, and we're going to just fry off the onions. Now you just want to cook the onions until they're nice and soft and going translucent. You don't need any colour on these, just until they're nice and soft. Pop in a wee dash of salt. This will encourage the moisture from your onions, and help it cook a wee bit quicker. So just keep frying until they're nice and soft. Like I said, it doesn't take you long at all, and you're not looking for any colour. You don't want these brown or anything. So once you're happy, you can pop in your herbs. So in with your sage, and then in with the parsley. Now you just want to fry this for a minute or so, just to get that lovely fragrant, the perfume getting released from your herbs. I wouldn't skip this part, it is worth it. Then once you're happy, you can pop in your breadcrumbs, and you're going to think at this stage, oh my God, I've got far too much stuffing, but it does go down a good bit. So give that a good stir through, and again, you just want to fry this for a good few minutes until it's starting to get toasty. You'll hear it getting sort of scratchy in the bottom of your pan. It's a bit like crushed digestive biscuits. And I do like to do this, do it this way, because it gives your stuffing a nice texture instead of just being like, wet bread basically. So yeah, just keep going until it's nice and toasty. And then to this, we're going to add the chicken stock. Now just use half and then maybe add the other half. You don't want this too soggy or, you know, sloppy. You do want it to sort of hold a nice shape. So just add enough so that it holds its shape, and when you can squash it into a ball in your hand, you know, or you push it with your spatula like this, it does hold its shape without being too sloppy. So that's ideal. So grab another oven tray, line that with some greaseproof paper, and I'm just using this wee scoop just to make sure they're all the same size. So there are 4 of us, so we'll all get one of these and there'll be a couple left over. You can roll this into a ball in your hand as well if you don't want to use a scoop. So set that to the side, and that will sit quite happily until you're ready to pop it into the oven, and that will take about 15-20 minutes. Doesn't take long at all. So part number 3 are your veggies. So obviously your roast potatoes, your mashed potatoes, and then broccoli we are using. So I like Maris Piper potatoes, but you could use King Edward's, red rooster potatoes, whatever you like. Just make sure they're a nice floury potato and not a waxy potato, because you won't end up with a very nice mashed potato if you use a waxy potato. So we like the Maris Pipers. So I like to allow 2 potatoes per person, some for roasting and some for mashing. So I just sort of half them into 2, but we are going to cook them all together. So make sure they're nicely peeled. Then you can slice them through the middle, or if they're smaller, you can keep them whole. It's entirely up to you. Pop them into a pan, give them a good rinse, and then you want to fill up your pan with cold water. Now, we would typically have cauliflower or cabbage or standard broccoli, but I'm going to be using the tender stem broccoli today. It's just lovely, and the stock is actually, it's very tasty. So that's what we're going to use. Just trim the ends of your broccoli off, and then just send all of your peelings to the recycling. And you want a wee bit of cold water in the bottom, not too much, because we're looking to steam this rather than boil it. For the roast potatoes, I'm going to be using beef dripping, but you can use goose fat or olive oil, whatever you prefer. I just think beef dripping gives them a lovely crunchy texture and a nice flavour. So you want to pop your beef dripping into an oven tray. Get your oven tray into the top of your oven. You want this tray spitting hot by the time your potatoes are ready to go in. So get back over to your cooker, get your tatties on to boiling, and then once they're boiling, you can pop in some salt, because if you put your salt in at the beginning, it actually takes longer to get up to the boil. I don't know why, but it does, because I've tested it. Come back about 10 minutes later, and you want to remove the potatoes that you want to roast and pop those into a colander. Give them a good shake in the colander, and that's going to rough up the edges, and you'll have a lovely crispy potato. I never skip this step. Just cook your remaining potatoes until they're nice and tender, and then we'll give those a good mash. So get back to your rough potatoes and get your oven tray out of the oven, and then pop your tatties in, and they should sizzle. Then spoon over your hot oil. Now obviously I've got quite a bit of oil in here, and you could do a lot more potatoes if you wanted. I'm not having any roast potatoes, so I just done 5. Get those back into the oven until they're nice and crispy. Lift your chicken out and get rid of the foil, and that's going to give your chicken a nice bit of colour on the top. If your potatoes are tender, drain the water out, another wee pinch of salt, and I like to add either a splash of cream or splash of milk and a wee knob of butter, and this is just going to give you a lovely smooth lump-free mashed potato. And I like to keep a wee bit of heat underneath my mashed potato while I'm mashing them. It's just something that I've always done. I don't really know if it makes any difference, but I've always done it, and I just do it this way every time. Now as you can see, they're quite loose, so you'll be able to keep those to the side and reheat them if you need to quite easily. Just give them a good stir and pop them on a low heat again. So now we're going to get the stuffing in. Like I said, it takes between 15 and 20 minutes. You just want a nice wee bit of colour on top and on the sides, a nice golden brown colour. So get them in. Then the last thing you're going to do is the gravy, and obviously the broccoli right at the end. So I'm going to use corn flour, but if you want a brown gravy, use Bisto powder instead. So get 2 teaspoons of corn flour or Bisto into a cup with 2 teaspoons of water. Set that to the side, and I'm also going to be using some chicken stock as well. So your chicken should be ready at this point. And doesn't that look wonderful? Now, I always check the temperature of my chicken just to make sure that it is, fully cooked. So I use a meat thermometer for this, and it should be between 65 and 70 degrees. Mine was at round about the middle of that, so that's ideal, and this is going to ensure your chicken is lovely and juicy and not overcooked. So I just like to wrap my chicken in foil and then pop it upside down, and then any juices that are in the bottom are going to get, filtered through to the top of the chicken. Again, just something that I've always done. So give the rest of your juices and your vegetables a wee stir and squash down. We're going to pass this through a sieve into a wee saucepan for which we're going to make the gravy in. And just give everything a good squash down with your spoon just to make sure you're getting all of those lovely flavours out of the vegetables, and then you can just discard your veggies as well. Just make sure you're not losing any. Then go over to your cooker. You want to bring this up to a simmer. Then we're going to add the chicken stock. I just used half of mine because I wasn't sure exactly how much I was going to need. This amount will vary on you and how much you need. So get this up to a simmer. I used half of my corn flour mixture and give that a good whisk together. Now, if you like a thicker gravy, just add more corn flour. And like I said, if you like a brown gravy, add some Bisto powder instead of the corn flour. A wee splash of milk, and this is almost like chicken soup, and that was my gravy done. So by now your tatties will be ready, and these were beautiful and crispy on the outside and so fluffy in the middle. And the last thing we're going to do is steam the broccoli, which will take about 10 to 15 minutes depending on how soft you like it. So just a wee touch of water in the bottom and let it steam away. And now your chicken should be ready to be cut up. Now I'm trying to do this one-handed, which was not easy, and my knife is absolutely rubbish. So you do want a nice sharp knife, and doesn't that look lovely and white and juicy? And then get your wee stuffing balls out, and that's everything ready. So all you have to do now is assemble. So the first thing I always add, for some reason, is the mashed potato, and then the wee stuffing ball, and then the chicken, the broccoli. I also popped on some sweet corn because I think that goes lovely with chicken. The roast potatoes and some of that beautiful gravy on the top. And let me tell you, it doesn't look very appetising, that gravy, but it was seriously tasty, and it was almost, like I said, a chicken soup. And that's it, like I said in the beginning, the individual elements are so simple to do, but it is all about the timing. Like I said, get the timing right, and this is very easy. Just before I leave you, I wanted to say, as usual, a massive thank you to the supporters of the channel over on my Patreon page, and there's been a few of you, and also a few new channel members as well. So welcome to you all, and thank you so much for deciding to support the wee channel, and thank you to you all for watching and leaving your comments and giving the video a like, and for those who share the videos, it's all very much appreciated. So I hope you liked that wee video. It was a bit of a longer one, but I did want to do it because so many folk have asked, how do you do this and how do you do that and how do you do the mashed potatoes. So I thought I'd just combine it all into the one recipe. So hopefully you're still here and you haven't decided to leave and got bored. So I'll catch up with you on Sunday for meals of the week as usual. And if you're not following me over on Instagram yet, I'm What's for Tea 3 over there, and it would be lovely to see you. So until I see you again, mind to take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you off as soon back here on What's for Tea. Bye now.